Hey YouTube folks, welcome to another video, and in today's video I'm bringing you another session of the main checkmates in chess. That's right. Well, today there will be checkmates everywhere. Today you'll learn the most famous checkmates in chess, this wonderful game. So guys, without further ado, let's get straight to this sequence of mates right now. And the first mate we're going to learn here today is a mate called the Fool's Mate. That's right, because you have to be a bit crazy to fall for this checkmate. It's a helpmate, and it's possible to get checkmated this way playing as white or as black. As white, you can fall for it in two situations. If you play the bird opening or if you play the grob. Yes, it's possible to get checkmated by the Fool's Mate. So, how does the Fool's Mate work? For example, if you play the grob opening, g4, the grob is on the board. Your opponent playing black can respond with e6. And if the grob player makes the mistake of moving the f-pawn to any square, okay? f3 or f4. Notice that this opens up the diagonal and allows the Fool's Mate with queen to h4. This is really unfortunate. Well, guys, this checkmate here is the fastest possible checkmate in chess, okay? It's called Fool's Mate because it's really a crazy checkmate that your opponent has to help you with. So it's possible for you to get this checkmate by playing the grob, by playing f3, okay? Or it's also possible for you to get this checkmate by playing the bird with f4 and after e6 playing g4, and yes, you'll get Fool's Mate too. This checkmate is very, very famous, but it's not very common to happen. Continuing our checkmate saga, now we're going to learn another very famous checkmate called the Scholar's Mate. The Scholar's Mate is very popular among beginners. As soon as they start playing chess, they try to use this mate at all costs. Let's see how the Scholar's Mate works. It starts with e4, e5, and after the move bishop to c4, keeping an eye on the f7 square, black can play knight to c6, and now white very sneakily plays queen to h5 already with ideas of poking at the f7 square. If the opponent playing black makes a careless and inattentive move, for example, playing knight to f6 trying to attack the queen, then they fall for the Scholar's Mate with queen takes f7. Yes, checkmate in just a few moves. The king is completely trapped and the queen is protected here by the bishop on c4. There are other ways to try to apply the Scholar's Mate as well, okay? After knight to c6 is playing queen to f3 directly, okay? However, this is not the best sequence to try to apply the Scholar's Mate, because now, if your opponent plays a move like knight to f6, he automatically blocks the f7 square here, which didn't happen in the other line, and you could actually deliver the Scholar's Mate. This checkmate here is very, very famous, and of course, if you're playing against very beginner players, you can try to pull off this trick here. Continuing with our checkmate sequences, now we're going to learn one of the most beautiful and brilliant checkmates in history. In chess, the Legal's Checkmate, or Legal's Mate. And the sequence for this checkmate starts with the move e4, e5, played by black, and after knight to f3, g6. This is a possible sequence for this mate. Bishop to c4, d6. And after some very natural moves, like knight to c3 and bishop to g4, already pinning the knight on f3, here comes a beautiful, wonderful combination that starts with the explosive and devastating knight takes e5. But Raphael, with this move, white is absolutely giving up the queen. Yes, and that's why this is one of the most beautiful checkmates in chess history, because white sacrifices the queen in this sequence. After bishop takes d1, then comes a forced checkmate line here with bishop takes f7 check. As far as I know, it's check. The king has to move to e7, and now comes the explosive and devastating knight to d5. This is not just check. This is mate with style. Checkmate in just a few moves, and there it is. The Legal Mate. One of the most beautiful and incredible mates in chess history. And the next checkmate on our list? If you're a fan of the Caro-Kann defense, be careful, because you might end up getting checkmated like this one day if you're not paying close attention, okay? This mate can work really well in blitz games, bullet games, relying on your opponent's lack of attention. What is the sequence of this mate? Well, white plays here with e4, and after c6, black chooses the Caro-Kann defense, d4 played by white. d5, then knight to c3. So far, everything is normal according to theory. Pawn takes pawn, knight takes, and in this position, black plays knight to d7, developing the piece, preparing to play knight to f6 and propose some knight exchanges. However, white can play the malicious and very dangerous sneaky queen to e2. This move here is quite subtle, but it brings a very direct threat, okay? Because if black plays a very natural move, like knight to f6, offering a trade of knights here, expecting white to take this knight, so the d-knight can take the f6 square, black loses with this move because white has a bombastic and devastating move, which is knight to d6. How wonderful chess is. Well, this isn't just check, folks. This is checkmate, okay? Because the king is absolutely trapped because of the simple queen e2 that was played one move ago, which prevents the e-pawn from capturing the knight. The king is absolutely stuck. This is a checkmate from the line against the Caro-Kann defense, okay? So be careful. Always stay alert if they play queen e2 against your little Caro-Kann. Now get your hearts ready because you're about to see the Lazard Gambit, which also brings a very, very creative and beautiful checkmate. Above all, what is this sequence like? White plays d4, the queen's pawn. After nf6 and 2, black plays e5, a big gambit. This is why it's called the Lazard Gambit. White can accept it here. And after a sequence like knight g4 threatening to take this little pawn, white can say, all right, take this pawn, I'll kick your knight out of here, and play a move that's not very careful, like h3, which seems like a very natural move to simply chase the knight away. However, this move loses on the spot with a very, very beautiful sequence, starting here with knight e3. But what move, Raphael? You're sacrificing the knight, but it's also threatening the queen. The queen is completely trapped here, so if you take this knight, now you will get into the checkmate sequence, okay? Because you open up this diagonal a lot, and it's very similar to the fool's mate, right? Queen to h4, trapping the king with nowhere to run. g3 is the only move, but queen takes g3, resulting in checkmate with tomatoes. This checkmate here is a pretty interesting checkmate too, depending on the situation, right? It's not a very common opening, but it can be used in some blitz games too if your opponent isn't very careful. And of course, if you were waiting for a checkmate with black as well, we have it here on our list. And let's see how this checkmate works, which is actually used against the king's gambit. If your opponent tries to attack you, then you're the one who will attack him. How does this sequence work? Well, white plays here with e4, e5, and now f4 white wants to play the king's gambit. But black plays a very different and very interesting move, which is the move d5. Notice that there are exchanges happening all over the center of the board. And if your opponent isn't very careful and captures the pawn on e5, which seems like a calm and natural move, well, white is already lost in this position. Because black now has the explosive and devastating queen h4, invading the diagonal directly. In fact, if your opponent plays a move like g3, for example, which seems like a natural move, then there's already queen takes e4 check, and with this variation, we win the rook completely clean on h1. So of course, if your opponent is paying attention and sees, oh, if I play g3, I lose the rook, I'll try to escape with the king. If he tries to escape with the king, he's also going to have problems, okay? For example, king to e2, escaping with the king. Then queen takes e4, attacking the king again, leaving only f2 bishop to c5 with black pieces attacking. The king can still escape to g3 here. Now it's an almost forced sequence. Queen takes e5, the king goes to f3, and now queen to f5, the king goes to e2 all forced, and now mate with queen to e4, a very interesting checkmate. Even if your opponent plays king to e3 here, which is another possibility, there's also checkmate with bishop to f2, and the game ends right there. So guys, this is another sequence, but now with black pieces. Yes, we can also attack with black. And to finish, the last checkmate on our list is also with black. If your opponent wants to play the bird opening against you, then you can play a wonderful bird gambit with a very beautiful checkmate theme. How does this sequence go? Well, the bird starts with the move f4, then black plays e5, offering a pawn, a big gambit. Pawn takes pawn, and now d6, offering another pawn, that is a crazy double gambit. And if white gets greedy and takes this pawn, then we play bishop takes d6, and now comes the cherry on top. If our opponent plays a very natural move like knight to c3, developing a piece on the queen side, then be careful. Our opponent hasn't paid any attention to the king side, and we can already win this game with the explosive and devastating queen to h4, once again using the theme of this diagonal, right? So here white doesn't have many options. The king is absolutely trapped. White has to play a move like g3, and after bishop takes g3 pawn takes, we won't take that rook. Because here there are checkmates with queen takes g3, the king is absolutely trapped. And if you still want to be sneaky and deliver a bishop checkmate, in this position, you can take the pawn on g3 with the queen. And after h takes, you can play bishop takes g3, and that's also checkmate. Well, guys, this is one of the lists I created about the main checkmates in chess. If you have more suggestions for other checkmates, leave them in the comments and I can make a new list and bring it here for you. I hope you enjoyed this roundup. If you liked it, don't forget to hit the like button and see you in the next videos, guys. Thanks! Subtitles by Adriana Zanotto.